The Nazis had won World War II. Mr. President, the world stands at a crossroads of history, and you are behind the wheel. On a foggy, dreadful morning in 1951, the Oval Office was darker than ever before. Everywhere, the maps that once tracked Roosevelt's advancing allies had been replaced by something far more terrifying: a map of the Middle East. Across it, the iron crosses of the Third Reich spread like a disease over former colonial lands, from Transjordan to Palestine. Each cross represented a massive division occupying the region. With a quick calculation, Truman realized that more than 100,000 Nazi troops were stationed directly on top of the world's oil lifelines. Secretary of Defense Marshall pointed at the map with tired eyes. The Nazis had brought Europe to its knees, but they were struggling to fuel their colossal war machine. Even the Caucasus oil fields running at full capacity weren't enough. Worse still, Hitler's so-called cultural protection program, a horrifying genocide policy, had wiped out much of the skilled workforce in the occupied territories. Tens of millions had died. The survivors were forced into slave labor camps. As Truman reviewed the reports, he felt sick to his stomach. The Nazis were not just an army. They were a darkness swallowing the world. Yet inside that darkness, a spark of resistance remained. The battered remnants of the Soviet forces, retreating beyond the Ural Mountains, but refusing to surrender. The CIA director presented a cold plan. Weapons would be secretly funneled through China to Stalin's guerrilla fighters, allowing them to erode the Nazi empire from within. The true crisis lay in Saudi Arabia. If the Nazis capture Saudi oil, Marshall warned, there will be nothing left to stop them. The army chief slammed his fist on the table. He demanded immediate use of nuclear weapons. America possessed thousands of atomic bombs, the Nazis only a handful. But there was a problem: Werner von Braun's rockets. The Nazis had launched satellites into orbit and developed missiles capable of striking New York and Washington. Truman did not want to trigger a Third World War. A decision was made: a show of force. An atomic bomb would be detonated near Nazi positions in Palestine. A warning: stop here or the world burns. Captain Joe Mancino fought the controls of the massive B-36 Peacemaker as it tore through violent winds above Tabuk, Saudi Arabia. A colossal sandstorm, known locally as a haboob, swallowed the sky. Visibility was gone. "I can't see the target, Joe," shouted Bombardier Mac. "The wind could push the bomb miles off course. Abort!" Joe tightened his grip. If they didn't drop this bomb, the Nazis would never stop. "Release it," he ordered. The bomb vanished into the storm's black heart. 52 seconds later, a light brighter than the sun erupted from within the sandstorm. Nuclear fire illuminated the sky like an apocalyptic lantern. That night, in the desert, Nazi generals felt true fear for the first time. Far away, in Camp 118 beyond the Urals, another tragedy unfolded. A Nazi officer read the list of prisoners to be executed due to resource shortages. When the name of a Roma man, Toba Win, was called, time seemed to stop for his wife and newborn child. Then, the camp's spiritual leader, Stefan, stepped forward. "I am Toba Win," he said, walking calmly toward the executioners. Stefan sacrificed himself so the real Toba and his child could live. Watching silently was Nikita, a former communist soldier who had always mocked faith. In that moment, a small light shone within the darkness. Hours later, in the Oval Office, Truman received the report. Nazi expansion had stopped. The operation had succeeded. But at a terrible cost. American ground teams caught in the blast had become the first victims of their own nuclear weapon. Slumping into his chair, Truman felt the weight of history on his shoulders. The world had avoided total domination, but it was not truly free. A long, dark, cold war had begun, with two superpowers ready to annihilate each other under the shadow of nuclear missiles. Hitler had not fully won, but humanity had not truly won either.